Welcome to 75 Stories, a podcast created to commemorate the 75th anniversary of Normandale Lutheran Church in Edina, Minnesota.
My sense of call to be a pastor is very tightly related to my faith journey. Growing up in Edina, attending Mount Olivet Lutheran Church in South Minneapolis, I was surrounded by love and grace and faith that was not always spoken out loud, but was definitely shown to me as a boy, as a teenager, as a young man. And I found myself being excused from college. I was given academic suspension for a year because my grades were not anywhere near to being successful. I got a job as a backpack guide counselor at a Lutheran camp in Colorado called Rainbow Trail. And while on the trail in Colorado, I was given the opportunity to go to Juarez, Mexico to do a day camp on the border for a little Lutheran church, mission church in El Paso that served primarily the immigrant population. Didn't speak almost any Spanish at all, but was able to share the love of Jesus with these little kids that the parents would drop off in the morning as they went to clean homes or do their jobs in El Paso. We went into the home of one of the folks whose children came to our day camp and sat on her sofa, and as a polite Edina boy, always looking for something nice or complimentary to say, I was looking around the cardboard walls and the makeshift tables and things, and saw just one of those Mexican rugs hanging on the wall that you can buy in the Mercado in the tourist wherever situations. That's a nice wall hanging, I said. The mother stood up, went over to the wall, took it down, and started folding it up, and handed it to me. And I did not know what to do with that. And to me, that was an experience of grace and hospitality in the midst of poverty that I had never experienced before. So I walked out into the heat and the sun just to catch my breath and think about what my emotions and all the things that were going on. And this still small voice literally spoke into my ear saying, "This is what you're supposed to be doing with your life." Came back to Minnesota, moved into my childhood bedroom, enrolled in classes at Normandale Community College, got a job at Southdale, and went to one of my pastors at Mount Olivet to try to figure out what all this was. What does all this mean? And I just sat there and I said, I think I'm supposed to be a pastor. And the response coming back to me was, duh. And I went, what? Like literally the pastor said, duh. And I said, what does that mean, Pastor? He said, Enstad, we've been waiting for you to figure that out your whole life. And I went, why didn't you tell me before all this disaster happened around me? And he said, would you have listened? Self. We walk alongside each other, even through the hard parts of life, knowing that God has made promises to each of us in our baptism, and always being available as people are trying to figure out what's going on. Who am I supposed to be? Who is God calling me to be? And I've had that experience, and I think that's actually informed how I can walk alongside others as they discover who they're meant to be. Whether everything's going great or not, the Lutheran Church is there, and we're not afraid to be. Normandale is a formative, foundational part of who I am as a pastor, as a man, as a husband. And I carry all of my experiences with me every day. I mean, I look back, I reach back to lessons learned along the way, to how I lead and mentor and support my staff, both pastoral and lay staff. How I've described my call at Normandale, as people have asked me throughout my journey for the last 24 years of ministry. I believe that I was given the opportunity to serve in multiple calls within that 7 years that I was here, with freedom to explore, to follow paths to things that maybe weren't in my original call description, to think about doing ministry. My portfolio was youth and young adult ministry, but I was a part of the entire pastoral team in terms of how we worked with children, how we looked at service and outreach, the mental health and wholeness ministry. I was pulled into those conversations in good ways, and so I learned so much. And Pastor Holm in particular, I think, gave me freedom to fail. And that was a hard thing for me, who as a performer, as a wanting to do the best I can and always have people be proud of me, being in an environment where failure is a learning was awesome. Most of the things we tried worked. One of the things we were learning is that Normandale had the resources to help young future pastors pay for seminary without incurring a lot of student debt. I think we've had at least 11 pastors come through that program. And that's an amazing legacy for Normandale to serve the larger church, not in expectation that any of these people necessarily come back to be pastors here, but that they are formed here as future leaders of the church. And we can help them also with the financial support. That was a really cool, big swing, I think. And I'm proud of it. I look back on my time at Normandale with immense gratitude. And that has also been something I've carried forward with me in my ministry, is how to say thank you. And so I want to, in conclusion, say thank you to Normandale for taking a risk on a first call, young whippersnapper pastor in a ministry area that had not been fully built out before. I was the fourth pastor in that time. Allowing me to fail, giving me the resources I needed to succeed, surrounding me with amazing people with all sorts of skills and talents, and most importantly, giving me the place where I began my family. And those pictures pop up on my phone every now and then, like how your phone says memories from this time. And seeing like a picture of Leave, my oldest daughter, standing in the balcony at one of the Christmas programs holding her star, still one of my favorite pictures, because they immediately felt welcomed. My wife, Carrie, immediately felt welcomed. We walked into this church when we were in the call process, it's kind of secret shopping, sitting in the back and looking at each other and saying, this feels like home. And it did. And still does. It's still part of my story.
We are so glad you joined us today here at 75 Stories. If you'd like to share your own story, please contact Christy Shepard at kshepard@normluth.org. Join us next week for another story, and share this podcast with your friends and family. We are all part of the Normandale community.